What is up, everyone? We are live on FIFA America. I am Jake. If you are new here, we talk about the U.S. men's national team, and tomorrow night there is a game. It won't mean much. It's not a World Cup qualifier, but the U.S. men's national team that is heavily MLS-based will take on a Bosnia and Herzegovina side, which is a very domestic-based side for Bosnia. There is no Edin Dzeko. There is no Miralem Pjanic. It's a very domestic and young side. It's a very physical team as well. So, guys, today we're just going to preview the game. We're going to talk about the US roster mostly. And obviously, if you've seen the title, this is a call in show. So, I will be adding the link in about 10 minutes so people can join the chat room with me. You don't have to be on camera, but you do have to have a microphone. And just I'll ask that you please be respectful. You can disagree, agree with anything you want in terms of Greg Berhalter, the U.S. men's national team. You can disagree with me. I don't care as long as it is all respectful. So there is a poll in the chat. I want to know if you guys think the U.S. is going to win, if Bosnia is going to win, or if it's going to be a draw. I am also reading the comments. So if you have any questions before we do take any people into the chat, just let me know and I'll put it up on the screen and we'll talk through any of the questions that you have about this. I think the first thing that I want to say and talk about is why you should pay attention to this game. Again, it's not a World Cup qualifier. It feels like Christmas is nearly upon us. Why do you need to care about the US men's national team that has maybe a handful of players that will play a part in the World Cup qualifiers going forward? Why should you care? I'm not saying you need to be excited about this game. It's just that there are a few things about this that will make it good for US men's national teams going forward. The first part is that there aren't many games left before next year's World Cup. It's less than a year away now. We have 6 more games left in the World Cup qualifying stages. We will probably play some type of summer tournament to prepare. And once we get to kind of pre-World Cup camp, that team will be set. So there's maybe a dozen games left before the roster is set for the World Cup. And there are a lot of fringe players on this roster that need to get into that 23 for the World Cup. There are very young players like Cade Cowell, Caden Clark, Jonathan Gomez that could potentially play a part in the World Cup next year. And they need to take their chances when they excuse me, just ate a cracker. Throat is dry. Anyway, yeah, there are minimum amount of chances for these players to make an impact, and especially players that aren't going to RB Leipzig. So Caden Clark is going to Leipzig. He might go on loan somewhere. He'll be playing. He'll get playing time this winter. Other MLS players like Cade Cowell, even the USL player Kobe Henry, Aaron Long, like these players need to start getting informed, start getting into fitness now. Ricardo Pepi is going to play up top, and it looks like Brooks Lennon is confirmed to be starting as right back, and George Bello is confirmed starting left back right now. So that's what we know. Okay, so that's the first part. Basically, there's a dozen or less games left before the World Cup next year. Players need to start making their way into the 23 if they want to have any chance, any shot at making the World Cup. That's reason number 1 to care about this game. Reason number 2 is the dual nationals that are in camp. Jonathan Gomez is a highly touted dual national between Mexico and the US. He is choosing between them as we speak. He's in camp with the US. He might not be with the US men's national team when they take on Bosnia. He might already be out to Real Sociedad, his club team that he's being sold to. So we'll see. But this is a very important camp for Jonathan Gomez and for Gabriel Slonina to be getting reps with these teams, to be talking to others like Ricardo Pepi and Jesus Ferreira, who chose the U.S. over a Mexican national side. We've done a good job bringing dual nationals into the camp. We haven't done our best this year, I don't think. But Mexico has done even worse. Julian Araujo is really the only one that's committed to the Mexican national team that has actually played and gotten playing time. All right. And Gabriel Slonina, we have two keepers right now, really, that are vying for the number one spot. Obviously, Zach Steffen and Matt Turner are vying for the number one spot. Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, they're kind of in the periphery. So I do think that Gabriel Slonina, while he probably doesn't play a part in this next World Cup, at 18 years old, for a goalkeeper to be getting professional minutes already, it's really, really impressive. And I think he is probably the one that could maybe sneak in as the third goalkeeper. We'll see. So that's reason number two. There are two dual nationals that need to have a good experience. They don't necessarily need to have a good performance. They just need to have a good experience with the team. The third reason is because of Aaron Long and Jordan Morris both coming back from catastrophic injuries. These are two players that, no matter how you felt about them, they made a difference and made an impact for the US men's national team. Aaron Long, before he got injured, he was the captain of the team. He was the captain of the US men's national team. He has something to give to this team. He might be the fifth or sixth best center back on your center back depth chart, but if he can get to anything close to where he was before the injury, then this is a really good time to do it. Jordan Morris as well. Um, he could potentially play a part in this team going forward for World Cup qualifying. I think really all he needs to do is be better than Paul Areola, and he might make this team. So we'll see how Jordan Morris and Aaron Long both come back from injury. So guys, those, again, not saying you need to be excited about this game in particular, not saying this is the end all be all. If we win or lose, it really doesn't matter about the result. But those are the three reasons why I would say you should want to watch this game. You should want to pay attention to what happens. Those are really the three big storylines, right? Okay, so first is there's not very many games left till the World Cup. Second is dual nationals, Jonathan Gomez and Gabriel Slonina are with the team. They need to have a good experience. And third is because Aaron Long and Jordan Morris are coming back from injury. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to post the link invite into the chat. If you guys want to come in and talk about your starting 11, if you have questions about players in particular, or maybe how Greg Berhalter is going to play this, I would love to hear from you guys. So again, all I'll ask is that if you do come into chat, you don't need to be on camera. You can if you want. Just have a microphone that's working. Please be respectful with your opinions. If you're not, I'll have to kick you from the channel, and I might have to end the stream if it's really bad. So please just keep it respectful. So I'm going to put the stream in. Just click on that link, and you won't come in immediately. I'll bring you in when I see you. So guys, this is the camp roster. We know some of the starters for tomorrow, and I'll bring up some of these questions. All right, Ken, you said camp is also an opportunity to say he knows the system. Yeah, Greg is a big system guy. He really prefers to have players that understand how to play in the system. I think Ricardo Pepi's first game for the US men's national team, Greg talked after the game about how he was pressing by himself. He wasn't pressing with the team. We also know that the system is the reason why Joe Scally hasn't gotten minutes with the team, because he struggled to take on his system. So Greg is a huge systems guy. So guys, I also just want to shout out Ken and Lou, who are in the chat, both members of the channel. If you do want to support the channel further, whether that's through, watching super chats, whatever, you can become a member of the channel. You get exclusive videos, and you get that cool logo next to your name and comment priority on the video. So guys, Ken and Lou, thank you so much. If any other members are in the chat, just say hi and I'll shout you out as well. Anita, thanks for being here, Anita. I forgot the game was coming up. I don't know if I even want to get the free trial to watch it. Yeah, if you're going with a free trial and that's how you're going to watch these games, I might save it for the January World Cup qualifiers. This is one game. You can watch the highlights after. It's not going to be make or break, life or death. So guys, make sure if you have any questions to put them in the chat as well, and we'll get through them. Make like a Willis. Thanks for being here, man. As someone who's new to the U.S. men's national team but not new to professional sports, how do you feel about Greg's program building? My untrained eye makes me feel like he's on the right track. So this is a huge debate. I love this question because the diehards of the U.S. men's national team might say, you know, Greg might win a lot. He might build a really good program. He might bring a lot of dual nationals on and have them commit to the US, but it feels like it could be so much better. So we're going to put that on Greg. I think there's a lot to that. And I think there's a lot of valid concerns about Greg Berhalter as a strategic coach, as a flexible coach. But when you look at the program that he's building, the players that he is getting to commit to the US men's national team, I mean, Ricardo Pepi is the last of many, though. Like Serginho Dest, Yunus Musa, we might be in for Fuller and Balogun from Arsenal. So, yes, he might not be the best coach, but in terms of building out a program, building out a camp that consistently has players saying that they feel like it's a brotherhood, that they feel like it's a really tight-knit group, and you can hear why Yunus Musa and Serginho Dest and Ricardo Pepi commit to the US. And that is one of those reasons. So I love this question because some of the people that have been watching the US for a long time, myself included, sometimes put a lot on how we feel like the coach is setting the team up and not enough on the actual atmosphere that's building with the team. And for that, I give Greg a lot of credit. And sometimes we just need to take that step back, ask ourselves overall, how's the program doing? What's the health of these camps, the culture, the emotional stability of everything? And that's where I think that Greg's strengths really come into play. All right, John, you asked, is Ethan Horvath better than Matt Turner? It's a really interesting question. I think if you had asked me this after the Nations League, I would have said absolutely. If you had asked me this after the Gold Cup, I would have said no way because Matt Turner played really well. And if you had asked me after the first few rounds of World Cup qualifying, at this point, I'm going to say maybe. There are two huge moments, huge events that happened this summer for goalkeepers. Matt Turner sending us to the Gold Cup championship after winning 4 games 1-0 was amazing. He had incredible performances. The other highlight over the summer for goalkeepers was Ethan Horvath coming in as a substitute in the Nations League final to stop a penalty in extra time and win that game for the US. And yet Zach Steffen will likely be the number one going forward. I think the issue with Ethan Horvath right now, and this isn't news to anybody that's paying any attention, is that he needs game time. For goalkeepers, confidence and confidence and form in terms of playing time is one of the best things that you can do for your skill level, for the amount that you're going to play for your international team. And Ethan Horvath just made the wrong move going to Nottingham Forest. They have a really good keeper there that was a solidified number one when he signed for them. So I just don't really understand that move. He was a free agent as well. Like a lot of teams would have wanted him because they didn't have to pay a transfer fee. They could have just paid his salary. So to go to a championship level team where he's not even going to be, walk in as the number one guy, it just makes me question a lot of what he was doing with that decision. I think right now I'm going to put Matt Turner ahead of Ethan Horvath. And for me, Zach Steffen and Matt Turner are like neck and neck. So yeah, I'll go 1A, 1B, Zach Steffen and Matt Turner. And then number 2 would be Ethan Horvath. Matt, yes, did Greg already have his pregame or camp press conference? I actually think it's happening right now, but it's not on YouTube. So only journalists are getting access to it. What I might do after this is try and find it on YouTube and then walk you through if you watched any of my other press conference reactions. So we do know from that, and if you guys aren't following Meg Swanek on Twitter, she has some of the answers from the press conference. I've seen that George Bello is confirmed as the left back starter. and Brooks Lennon is confirmed as the right back starter for tomorrow's game. So, guys, again, if you do want to join me, you don't have to be on camera, just need a microphone. Just be respectful when you come in, and we'll talk about this US men's national team game. I'll just get a new email for another free trial. It's on FS1. Yeah, I'm wondering how you guys feel in. So currently I'm in London. I don't tell the FBI or anything, but I'm streaming all of these US games through a VPN. But I'm wondering just how you guys feel having so many different places that you have to go to get your soccer. The fact that you have to go to FS1, Paramount, ESPN Plus, it's crazy that you have to pay subscriptions, and I'm assuming some of you have cable as well. It's wild. Okay, are all Horvath, Turner, and Johnson better than Steffen? Personally, I think that Zach Steffen is the best goalkeeper in our group, in our goalkeeping core. Turner is the closest. It's really, you could flip a coin. I'd be happy with either of them in net. Then I would put Horvath and then Sean Johnson. And Sean Johnson is a good option. He's not that far behind Ethan Horvath. And I think he's there because he's been with the camp before. Horvath probably doesn't deserve it at this point. Like, on merit alone and playing time, he's just not where he needs to be to get the opportunities for international games. So I'd like to hear what you guys think as well. Like, if you don't agree with me, I personally think Zach Steffen is the best goalkeeper in our goalkeeping group, but feel free to shout out why you think differently. Better hypothetical. What if Ethan had the opportunity to play the entire Gold Cup? I think that would have done a lot of good for him, and I'll kind of relay it to a player that is currently with this team that needs to do the same thing, which, now that I'm thinking about it, the fact that Brooks Lennon is starting at right back means that Brian Reynolds, a Roma player in Serie A, has not won the right back starting spot from Brooks Lennon, a converted right back for Atlanta United who had a very good season, but did not have the the best season in MLS for a right back. So I to turn it back to your question, Ken, what if Ethan had the opportunity to play the entire Gold Cup? I think that would have done wonders for teams to be able to scout him and pay him money to get him on their team. But also, like, the fact that that Nations League appearance wasn't enough to garner more interest just really puts that in doubt for me. All right, do you follow an MLS team? Yes. I'll try to answer this quickly. I grew up in New Jersey. My parents took me to Metro Stars games when they were played in the Meadowlands. I then continued to follow the Red Bulls when they bought the Metro Stars, built Red Bull Arena. I was there when Joel Lindper scored the first goal in Red Bull Arena. I followed the Red Bulls. Then I went to university in Pennsylvania. I've lived in Philadelphia for the last 10 years before I moved to London. So I also follow the Union. But if they played against each other, the Red Bulls would still be my team, but I do follow both of them pretty regularly. Nottingham Forest made Horvath their fourth highest paid player, so I think they were earnest in letting him compete for the number one spot. Still a bad move, though. Yeah, completely agree. If he's after the bag, then good for him. He got his money, but now he's not going to be part of a World Cup team. That it's as simple as that. With the success the U.S. has had this year, do you feel it's because of Berhalter or in spite of Berhalter? Ooh, Lou, this is a blazing hot question. And it deserves more thought than what I'm about to give it. I think Berhalter deserves credit for the success and failures of this team. And like all coaches, he doesn't get enough credit when we win, and he gets too much bad credit when we lose. However, I will say in Berhalter's particular case, the poor performances have been down to specific decisions that Berhalter has made. I think about that first half in Honduras, playing a 5-3-2 with James Sands and I forget who the other center mid was. Tyler Adams at right back. Like, some of these decisions, the away game against, what was it? Now I'm getting everything mixed up, against Panama. Like all of those decisions to sit 8 of our starters, it all comes down to Berhalter. However, some of our best performances are because Berhalter has put our best 11 on the field, has trusted our young core to get the job done. And I think that he's done a really nice job building the team, building the environment, building the culture. So, for better or worse, and on both sides of this question, I think Greg Berhalter deserves credit for the good and the bad that he has done for this team. And there's a lot of both. What is it about Miles Robinson that European teams aren't interested in? I don't think he has a European passport, so he would take up an international spot. And 2, he is getting up there in age for center backs. But that's really it. He's got all the tools that you would want, but if you compare like him to Mark McKenzie, probably of the same ilk if you're scouting the players. I'm not saying their performances for the US men's national team, but if I was a scout for a team, they'd probably be in the same bucket. I'm going to take the younger player every day of the week. Although I do feel like Miles Robinson has many years to give. Center backs usually develop a little bit later in their life. If you think that like 23, 24 is usually when field players start to hit their prime, center backs are a little bit later than that, usually 26, 27, they'll hit their prime. And goalkeepers around the same age, like 28, 29 is when goalkeepers will really hit their prime. So I think for a center back like Miles, there's still room to go. Guys, thank you so much for all these questions. I'm going to try and get through them as quickly as I can so I can get to everybody. Make sure to hit the like button so more people can find this video. And if you want more USMNT content, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And this channel has been growing like crazy. And I really have all of you guys to thank. Thank you so much for joining to talk about this. All right, so we're going to keep going here, though. We might go an hour. Who knows? We'll see. Paxton Pomykal, I thought was a snub for this roster. It feels like a really long time ago, but 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago when the roster was announced, I did have a roster video. Paxton Pomykal was a snub for me. I do think he deserves to be on the roster. Anita, did you see the news that soccer has overtaken hockey as the number 4 most popular sport in the US? Yes, and I do have a video coming up for it. And I also wrote an article for my website. I don't really use my website or talk about it or get it out there very often, but I'll plug it in the chat. So I'm going to do a video about it. It's going to be a video essay, like if you saw my video for Mixed Discarud, it'll be like that. And it'll be talking about the soccer in the US. Let's see. How do I even get here? You know what? I'll plug that later. But yes, I did see it. I'm not surprised. And I'm going to be doing a video about it. So if you do want to see that in the future, make sure to subscribe. Funny, since soccer is now played in snow and sub-zero temps. What do you guys think about the game being played in Minnesota? I'm a little bit worried myself about this. The Minnesota game is definitely scaring me a bit. Stefan's statistically the worst shot stopper for club and country. He averages literally almost 3 times as many goals per game as Turner. I need to look a little bit deeper into that in terms of like what opponents we're playing against when Stefan's on the field versus Turner. But yeah, I think for goalies, I would look at like expected goals and then expected goals actually scored against them. Yeah. Atlanta is also a team that doesn't need money. They have Arthur Blank's checks coming in. Like he doesn't need to sell the best center back in MLS and the talisman of Atlanta United. So if they were hurting for money, or if people were coming in with like a 10 to 12 million offer for Miles, I think the offers are probably realistically in like the 4 to 6 million, and it's just not worth it to sell him for that. So yeah, there's multiple streamings, $20 a month. Okay. That's not bad for all of them. MLS needs to stop overpricing. I remember Crystal Palace were interested in DK. So, John, I'm really glad you asked this question because personally, I think that players like Daryl DK, Ricardo Pepi, they are going to be sold. This is really just the club owners talking it up, trying to raise the price, basically saying that they have an asset that they're not willing to sell, basically raising the demand for this player, right? And that's going to raise the price that they get in the end. I think Ricardo Pepi potentially could stay with FC Dallas just to have another year in a consistent environment to go into the World Cup. Like that's the one argument that I could see Pepi just continuing with the team in MLS for. But I do think Daryl DK is gone, even if you hear from the Orlando owners that they want too much money. I really think that's posturing to just get them the maximum amount that they can. Yeah, Matt, I completely agree. He deserves credit for the culture building, but he has terrible roster selection. Um, and I'm not just talking about starting 11s. The fact that for 4 camps in a row, starting from the Gold Cup, I want to remind you guys the roster for the Gold Cup had Jonathan Lewis as the starting winger. Okay. Jonathan Lewis was the starting winger in the Gold Cup because we brought 2 wide forwards with us. And then go into the World Cup qualifying rosters. I'm not going to get this perfectly right, but it was like Timothy Weah, Paul Areola, and Brendan Aronson were our 3 wingers. And if one of them got hurt, there was nobody to take their place. It's just crazy to me that he makes the same roster selection mistakes all the time, consistently. Um, I would hope that at some point he learns his lesson that, and it's even okay. I just talked about the wingers. Look at our forwards for this camp. I know I said this game doesn't matter, and it doesn't, but in our forward group, you have Taylor Booth, who from the press conference we know is playing as an 8 in this camp. Caden Clark is a 10, an 8, or a winger. Cade Cowell is a winger striker. Jesus Ferreira is a 9 or a 10, so he does not play wide. Jordan Morris is a wide player. Ricardo Pepi and Giassi Zardes are forwards. So if you just take that by itself, Jordan Morris and Cade Cowell are really the only wide players on this roster. And again, like this doesn't matter. It's just the same mistake over and over again. But I do think he deserves credit for his culture building. I completely agree. Yeah, US and Canada shouldn't play in cold unless it's against Mexico. I think we're hurting our own players by playing in terrible conditions. I completely agree. And for me, being the best team in CONCACAF, especially against the Minnows, means that we should be playing on the best fields to take advantage of our technical ability as much as possible. If you throw snow into the mix, that just creates an opportunity for randomness to play a part in the game's outcome. So for me, playing in Minnesota is a huge mistake because we're adding a random factor into it. I feel like when we're playing the Minnows, you want it to be as pristine conditions as possible so that our technical ability can come and play out. At some point, you have to allow players to advance to higher levels. Young domestics would sign them too, but European clubs could weigh circumstances better at college. This is a really interesting conversation we were having on the podcast because it's players like Daryl DK, right? I Daryl DK is too good to go to. Daryl DK is too good to warrant a price under like $8 million, right? But the only teams willing to pay that price are going to be teams that aren't going to play him initially. He's going to be a development piece. And the same with Ricardo Pepi. He's too good to go to a team that would pay more than 8 to 10 million. So like I think about a team in Portugal or a team in Belgium. They're probably looking at players in the 3 to 5 million range. Ricardo Pepi is too good for that at 18 years old. but the teams that are willing to pay $10 to $15 million for Ricardo Pepi are too good. He's going to come into Ajax, where they have an incredible striker playing. Okay, he's going to go to Real Madrid, where Benzema is going to start ahead of him. Like he's in a conundrum basically right now because he's too good. His price is warranting better teams to vie for his contract, but there's players ahead of him in those teams where he wouldn't see the field. Arthur Blank won't sell Miles Robinson until his contract runs out. He won't be for sale until the last year of his contract. When is that, Matt? I'm wondering. When is the last year of Miles Robinson's contract? Jeff Cameron had a good career in England, and Miles is a few years younger. Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that he wouldn't warrant being like Stoke, QPR would be great teams for Miles Robinson. Fulham would be a great team for Miles Robinson. Norwich would be a great team for Miles Robinson. But if he's going to take up an international spot, if he's going to cost more than $5 million, like Arthur Blank doesn't need to send him anywhere. And I'm not saying he couldn't be a part of teams that are on the level that Stoke was when Jeff Cameron played a part for them. I'm just saying that he's not going to be let go. In my opinion, like Arthur Blank is the owner that doesn't need to let players go like Miles Robinson. Whereas Orlando and FC Dallas, they probably do want to sell their players. They're just trying to make sure that they get the best price they possibly can. So I see Tom here from the podcast. You'll all know him. I'm going to bring him on. What's up, Tom?
Oh, hey, Jake. How goes it?
Going well. You shaved, my friend.
I did. My family's having to get together tonight, so I decided to clean it up a little bit.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us.
Uh,
So we're actually talking a lot about Miles Robinson. I'm wondering how you feel about him potentially going to Europe, or why he wouldn't be sold by Arthur Blank.
yeah, I think it's time for him to go to Europe. I don't think this is getting to be sort of his last chance to go. Atlanta just made some roster moves that make it a little unlikely right now. They just sent Franco Escobar to LAFC, and they let Anton Walks go in the expansion draft to Charlotte. So they're down to 3 center backs on roster. George Campbell, who's their young sort of Miles type replacement, Miles himself, and then Alan Franco, who's more of a defensive midfielder than a center back from where he plays for Atlanta. So I don't know if they have the pieces to replace him right now, but he's got to go at some point. He's too good of a center back to stay in MLS. The thing that I think is holding him back right now is his passing ability. I don't know if a top 5 team who would be the only ones willing to take that price tag on are going to be comfortable having him on the roster given his limitations with his feet.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what would improve if he went to Europe. Like
Yes.
the speed of play would force him very quickly to learn how to get the ball away from his feet and possibly play better in possession.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I also saw Brooks Lennon is going to be starting at right back over Brian Reynolds. How are you feeling about that?
I actually like Brooks Lennon a lot. I really think that he's a solid player. He's grown a lot from his time in the RSL Academy, and he's been underrated given how bad Atlanta's been for the last 2 years as being their best player almost outside of the typical stars.
Yeah, definitely. Burnman, you asked about Paxton Pomykal. I'm getting my Paxtons mixed up now. The Paxtons and the Cades have arrived, which is really bad for anyone talking about them on a consistent basis. I do think that Cole Bassett is potentially kind of trying out for that role in this camp. Someone like Taylor Booth as well. Although I just can't see someone that's playing in the 4th division in Germany at right back for his club team being the kind of end all be all stand in for Musa. We have this issue, I think, right now where like Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie are all essentially Miles head and shoulders above their next in line replacements. And that's not going to get better, whether that's Paxton Pomykal or Cole Bassett. Yeah, so we were also talking about how soccer just overtook hockey as the number 4 sport. And I'm not completely I might need your help, Tom. Is there going to be a work stoppage in baseball?
There probably is. I've been hearing talk of a lockout. I haven't been following it as closely after the Braves won the World Series. I kind of dropped off a little bit, but it was looking like it was trending that way, that they were going to have a lockout this year. It'll be resolved at some point, but I doubt that they get the season started on time.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I still think soccer is a long ways off from baseball, just in terms of um, their deals for television rights and all of that. Is like, in my mind, it does matter, obviously, how many people are watching, or like how many people consider it to be their favorite sport. But the fact of the matter is, the the reason why NBC is willing to pay for the rights of the Premier League, like almost $3 billion, is because of all those other statistics. I think we're still way behind baseball in that
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, well, baseball's slowly falling. It's not going to be very long because they are not going to be able to sustain the TV deals given how low the viewership is for these games. The thing that would help soccer more than anything is having consistent days and times for games to play. So we know that the ESPN Sunday game is the biggest game in baseball that's played, during the regular season. Basketball has their nights. I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays are the typical nights where you can tune into TNT for basketball. There's not really a night for soccer. It just
Yeah.
sort of randomly happens. And having a consistent MLS game of the week that was played on Wednesday night, the best midweek game being played on FS1 or on ESPN or on ABC would be huge for soccer. And I think it would sort of start to sort of change that narrative and give them a more consistent viewer base and start to drive TV viewership and get those contracts to improve.
Yeah, I do want to touch as well on. We have a lot of questions to get through, so I'm going to try and be concise with this. But the fact that NBC Sports were so respectful of the fan base and like the craft of really honing in that Premier League coverage with Rebecca Lowe, the Robbies, like it was such good coverage. It was such quality coverage that really it didn't like pull any punches or try and baby the fan base. It just like felt like they were very respectful of the game, the craft, and the fan base. And when you go from like NBC Sports coverage of the Premier League and what it is now to like ESPN's coverage of an MLS game, where they're not even going to show it because there's like a, I don't know, a D3 women's basketball game going to overtime, it just feels like if these networks, it's not like a magic lamp that you rub and you automatically get viewership because soccer is the new young hip sport. You have to respect it as well, and then the people will come.
Yeah. I think CES Sports has done a good job with that too.
Yeah, and their panel as well. I talk a little bit about this in my upcoming video in the article that I'll link. But everyone has been looking to basically clone a Rebecca Lowe. Like
Mm-hmm.
even in England, I'll say like on the soccer Saturdays, all of that, there's always a Rebecca Lowe like person hosting, which is great in terms of just getting more women into the game, the diversity on the panels and what their experience is like. But it's like everyone is just trying to copy paste the formula of success from NBC Sports. Okay, so there's a question about Cameron Carter Vickers' play right now. Feel like he should be called up for the next camp. You and me both, Michael, and I'm sure Tom agrees as well.
Oh yeah, huge
Yeah,
CCV fan.
tell us more about that, Tom.
He's he's a big athletic defender who's pretty good with his feet, and he's lighting it up in Scotland right now. He's excelled in every loan move he's had. He's played for bigger teams than McKenzie ever has, and been excellent on all of his loan spells. Scotland actually rated him the number one defender in the entire league right now. It's just time to see what he's got. He's been away. He's not the same player as he was last time he was called into a camp. 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
It's time to give him another look. He's the same age as Miles Robinson. I don't see why we're not taking another look at him.
Don't tell me that Henry Kessler is more deserving of a call up than Cameron Carter Vickers. I wish more summer games were played up here. Minnesota is only 2 hours away from me, but it's going to be frigid, and I don't want my kids in that. We just moved up here from the south. Yeah, Anita, like it could easily be below 0
Yeah.
Fahrenheit for that game. So yeah, it feels crazy that you have to buy tickets now and then hope that it's even like a livable temperature for that game.
Yeah.
Wild. International stats are unfortunately rudimentary. Yeah, Burnman, I think you're following up on a Turner versus Stefan debate. Turner had a big expected goals saved advantage over Stefan in MLS too. Yeah, I feel like it's a good stat to look at, and it tells you a lot. I think though, again, it is just my opinion. I feel like uh, Stefan passes the eye test a bit more for me right now. I like his play with his feet. So for me, Stefan still is going to get the number one nod for me. Unfortunately, Orlando didn't sell DK right after his championship stint when value was the highest. Yeah, I feel like the ownership teams are hamming it up, waiting for that dream bid to come through. I feel like Miles Robinson is an exception because Arthur Blank doesn't need to sell him. And Orlando and FC Dallas don't need to sell Pepi or DK, but there is incentive to sell them now. And saying that you want to keep them, well, that's a good way to signal to other teams that you need a better price for the transfer. Thomas, you also said Kevin Paredes was playing as a winger. Um, I think Greg said that in his press conference right before Paredes was injured.
Yeah. So he was another one of the wide players they looked at. He's technically listed as a left back on the roster, but the way DC plays with Julian Gressel and with Kevin Paredes as their wingbacks, they actually play a lot higher than your typical wingbacks would. So they sort of function as wingers a lot in that system.
Yeah. I noticed in the behind the crest video that Greg had a 5-3-2 formation on the board.
Was that upside down though?
That it was. I noticed that too. But I'm wondering if they were talking about like the opposing goalkeeper and how they'll press or something. So I have no idea. I expect a 4-3-3, but could be
the
just
roster
crazy.
set up for a 5-3-2. I actually feel more comfortable with a 2-man midfield than a 3-man midfield, given who we've called up.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any midfielders.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of wild. This roster has a lot of question marks for me, but again, this game doesn't matter, so like I can't harp too much on it. Yeah, there's not going to be many cold weather games, although the Qatar stadiums are supposed to have working air conditioning on the field. So we'll see how well that engineering works. All I know, I don't know much about engineering. Tom might have more to say about this, but it's very difficult to go against Mother Nature. That's the number one rule that I know.
Yeah. I don't know much about engineering either. I just teach the engineers. I don't actually do any of it myself.
So Matt, you asked, is Gomez still with the camp? Is he available to play tomorrow? So we do know that we have pictures from today's practice with Gomez still in the camp, but we don't know if he'll be available to play tomorrow or if he'll be on his way to Real Sociedad. Or since we do already know that George Bello is going to be the starting left back, it could be that Real Sociedad needs him or wants him to come in healthy and has asked him not to play. We'll see. Too many people are overthinking why Miles isn't going to Europe. It's because Blank isn't going to sell until mid to late 2022. Apparently, his contract is over in 2023. So that makes sense. With 1 year left on the contract, that's when they might be able to still return some value from him and let him go with that contract.
Yeah, it gives them more time to scout a new center back too, because they're going to need to go out and get someone to replace him. George Campbell won't be ready yet. They have some young players in the pipeline. Atlanta's academy is really starting to develop well, but they're not ready yet. And even George Campbell is, I don't think, where Miles Robinson was when he started in MLS.
Yeah. Do you feel like the academy is starting to pick up because there's now like 5 or 6 good years of foundation for the MLS team?
Yeah, I think so. The first couple of years even were starting to show promise, and yeah, there's just all these sort of great talents. The MLS team has been successful. They've brought in a lot of revenue. That whole area, the North Georgia, is a soccer hotbed. And so there's a lot of talent to pick from in that area. That's actually where I am right now. I'm just north of the Georgia line. So I'm pretty familiar with it. And they've got a lot of talent to choose from.
Got to start scouting for us, Tom, while you're out there. Guys, I'm going to post the StreamYard link just one more time. If you do want to come on and talk to us or have any questions, you're more than welcome to. You just need a microphone. I'll just ask that even if you agree or disagree with any opinions, that you be respectful. Otherwise, feel free to throw your questions in the chat and we'll keep it going. So Cole Bassett is more relevant for the 2026 cycle. Was a pretty average MLS starter this year, still young. Yeah, I think Cole Bassett has a good, not huge ceiling, but you can already tell that his floor is also pretty high. I think if he can build himself into a consistent player at a position of need, like let's be real again about our MMA midfield, if one of them is out, we need somebody to step up. I personally think that it's Gianluca Busio still. Kellen Acosta is serviceable, but not nearly as good as Tyler Adams in the six. So there are a lot of opportunities for someone like Cole Bassett to start to plug their way into the cycle for 2026.
He's going to Europe soon too.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more players. Does he have a European passport?
I don't think
I don't
he
recall.
does, but he's had interest and almost went to, I think, Benfica this year. So
Okay.
it's coming soon.
Nice. Preston, so you just joined the call. Are you good to come in? Cool. What's up, man? How are you?
Good. I've got double sound. I don't know what's going on there.
So there are a lot of
Probably have to close the YouTube link.
There we go. There we go. Hey guys.
How goes
How
it?
you doing?
Going well. Going well. Just wanted to jump on, say hello. Yeah, I'm excited for this game. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Just to see a couple of the younger guys. I just realized that you don't know what I look like. So this is the first
Yeah,
time
I'm excited
Yeah.
to see you for the first time.
seeing me. But I'm so glad that you guys have been doing this for a while. How long have you been doing this, Jake? Couple months?
Since July, August. Yeah,
Since
we
July.
did the 30 and 30.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I think I joined the channel like right around then. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
probably
So,
had like 30 subscribers at the time. So
Yeah.
really do appreciate all the support. And
Yeah.
around the same time we started the Yanks Go Talking podcast. The
Yeah.
25th episode was last week. So
Mhm.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's an easy way to track how long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's also our first podcast episode was after the Honduras Nations League game. So
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, Nations League. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to talk to you guys real quick about like some bigger picture stuff. Obviously, this friendly is cool, and we're in the middle of World Cup qualification. Sorry, I'm in my classroom right now. The school day just ended, and so anyway. But I wanted to talk to you guys. So if it's a little bit echoey, sorry about that.
Sounds great.
You're
I'm
good.
in chemistry lab. You know, that's how we do it here. But the bigger picture of kind of CONCACAF as a whole and how the confederation is improving. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that process and whether or not you think that we could kind of improve our standing in the world as a confederation, not just as a national team.
Yeah. I guess like I can go a lot of ways with this, but I just saw news that CONMEBOL is joining UEFA for is it UEFA Nations League?
Yeah,
or
for Nations League.
Yeah, so in 2024, I feel
Mhm.
like that's a huge slight to CONCACAF, and I say that as a very biased CONCACAF fan. I feel like the profile of CONCACAF eventually needs to rise to the point where we're seen at least in the same conversation. I think like reasonably you can say that CONCACAF is not at the same level as CONMEBOL or UEFA. I think that's not like a controversial opinion, but the fact that 10 years ago we were talking about MLS being the way that CONCACAF can start to build a bit more of a foundation around teams like Jamaica, Honduras, Panama. I think we're seeing that. So the fact that we're losing to Panama away, the fact that Jamaica is not an easy game, the fact that Canada is now like our little brother that could potentially beat us, like they've just gotten to a similar height and weight to us, and they can start to play us competitively in games like that is starting to be scary. So I think there's like a balance of we need to be okay with that there's going to be more challenge in CONCACAF and there's going to be more competition for those top spots. And at the same time, I feel like, a rising tide raises all boats. And the US and Mexico especially are like the tide that is rising. And MLS is a league that is helping a lot of CONCACAF teams to do that. But I still think we're a long way off for kind of like finding respect in the global game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that right now you sort of have to see the African Federation, the Asian Federation, and CONCACAF is sort of on the same level. Even though if you look at World Cup success, that doesn't really play out because CONCACAF has been by far the most successful of those three confederations. I think we're the only ones to send a team to the World Cup quarterfinals from that group. USA and Costa Rica have both made the quarterfinals this century, which I don't think any team from Asia or Africa has. But they have some quality squads. They're usually a little bit higher ranked than us. I would say that their squads are usually better than sort of the mid-tier CONCACAF teams. So there's some way to go to pull those teams up. And as good as MLS is, I think that another thing that's going to really help is Nations League. Getting all these smaller CONCACAF minnows a chance to play each other and get regular games where they're not waiting 2 or 3 years between their chances to play a regular game. Expanding the CONCACAF Champions League, giving the club teams a chance to play higher quality opponents more often, giving some more revenue to these smaller islands. All of this is going to help raise the level of what we see in CONCACAF and improve what we see from these mid-tier teams that get a chance to play those smaller teams. Because we actually have the infrastructure in this region and the soccer fanaticism in this region to make it one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with the UEFA and CONMEBOL merger for Nations League. I would, and obviously this is something that's purely hypothetical at this point, but to see something similar with the Africans, the CAF and CONCACAF, I think that some of the bigger nations of Africa, I don't know, it would be really cool to see like a Senegal and a Ghana or Ivory Coast play against Costa Rica and Panama and stuff like that. I think that those would be decent matches. But anyway, I look at stuff like Nations League and with CONCACAF Champions League and stuff. I think that the game here in CONCACAF continues to get better. Problem is that it's kind of getting better everywhere, right? And so, are we keeping up or are we catching up? It's a discussion. So that's what I wanted to say. And I think as far as tomorrow goes, I think 2-1 USA. We'll see.
Pretty reasonable. Reasonable take.
I would take that.
Doing research on the Bosnian team. A lot of those guys. I mean, it's obviously just domestic guys, but they've got some talent. Not a huge amount. I would say that we're the more talented team. But
one of the press conferences, they were talking about the scouting report and that most of their team is over 6'2". I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple guys that we need to watch out for, especially on like set pieces and stuff. But other than that, I think that even though I think a lot of people are kind of, oh, this is just an MLS team. Well, it's a Bosnian domestic league team. So is MLS better than the Bosnian domestic league? I would certainly hope so. Right? I know that
might be a good test.
It would be a good test.
Yeah. I know it's in Europe, but I feel like I think that MLS has grown so much, and to see that as a fan has been encouraging. So yeah, like you said, it should be a good test because we played in a friendly against Bosnia 3 years ago.
We played them twice in the last 6 years, and so our most recent game was 3 years ago. We tied them 0-0.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
Another realistic option for this game.
Yeah. But Preston, thank you so much for joining the stream.
Yeah.
It was good to see your face, know what you look like.
It's good to talk with you guys.
Yeah, good to talk with you.
We'll chat sometime later, I'm sure, on Discord.
Oh,
Sounds good.
See you later.
See you, Preston.
See ya.
Daniel, are you cool to join? Hey, man. What's up?
Hey,
welcome.
What's up? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We can. Yeah.
Oh, nice. How are you guys doing? Oh,
doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Nice.
everyone's good. Yeah. So what's up? How are you feeling for tomorrow? Is there anything you want to talk about specifically?
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I think that's the best way to put it. I I guess I was just intrigued by initially when the roster first came out, I was initially intrigued by the formation of the roster, us bringing 6 center backs, right? I believe, and 4 to 5 wing backs or fullbacks. It made me wonder whether Greg was going to experiment with the formation at all, or whether he was going to stick with his 4-3-3, which, you know, we've seen all throughout qualifying and everything. And also, I think in the behind the crest, there was Greg's formation on the whiteboard, or at least it kind of went around the rounds on Twitter of people, oh, is he going to play a 3-5-2? People began talking more about it. I was like, okay, well, there might be something to that, or it might just be, I don't know, left over from previous people who used the room, I guess. I don't know. But I'd say I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. How do you guys feel?
Tom, you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling okay about it. At some level, the overall result doesn't really matter to me. So I can't really feel optimistic or not optimistic about a result because we're seeing how individual pieces work together. We're testing some guys out after coming back from injury. To me, the data on each individual player is far more important than the result itself. So as long as we see some players play well, I'm happy with whatever the result is.
Yeah, I would say the same, but I know that tomorrow, 12 hours before the game, I'm going to be amped up. Like, I want that 18th win of the season. I want to go out with a record. So, but at this point, like, yeah, we could win, we could lose. It's not going to change my mind a whole lot, especially if we do play in a 5 at the back or a 3-5-2, however you want to call it. Like, if we start to change the formation or start to try and learn how these different formations go from a 4-3-3, then I won't be too upset if we lose or we don't have the result that we want. I think back to like the Honduras game, the first half where we tried to play in a 3-5-2 and it did not work. So on one hand, like we do need to take these opportunities to start thinking about like the other flexibilities within a 4-3-3, the other flexibilities that we have with the team to play different formations. And at the same time, it's like, there's not a ton of players in this camp that will be at the January camp. So is there a ton of value in trying to instill a new system? Maybe it's good from like a coach's perspective so that they can learn how to instill it with the full 23. But in my mind, like I don't necessarily see the value in trying something new or doing something like this and spending time on it to develop in camp when like 3 players are going to be in the January camp.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was just something I noticed off the bat just from the roster release, and it kind of just made me wonder a tiny bit about that. Score prediction tomorrow, I honestly am not sure, just because with Berhalter, excuse me, had a bubble in my throat. With Berhalter, it's kind of like some days I feel like I know what to expect from the team, and other days it's kind of a mixed box. Consistency in the performances is something, that's been talked about for a while now, especially away from home. But I know we're at home this time, but that's been another question is, can they perform well on the road? Have we seen progression at least in that area? And so far, I don't know if we have. But it'll be interesting, I guess. For tomorrow's lineup, I don't know if either of you guys saw, but apparently some reporters said that Brooks Lennon and George Bello are set to start tomorrow, the Atlanta United pairing at fullback. And that makes me interesting. That interests me because it makes me wonder, whether they're going to play as fullbacks or wingbacks, and how Greg's going to deploy them and use them, in general.
Yeah, they're both very versatile in that way that they can play the wingbacks if we do want to play a 3 in the back. You are definitely making a lot of good points about our defending core. And Tom was just talking a little bit about the amount of midfielders that we have to play maybe a 2-man midfield. It might make sense to play a 3 in the back system, have like Kellen Acosta and Christian Roldan play the 8s in the middle of the field. I don't know if that's what Tom is expecting. But I think the one thing that you can kind of guarantee is that the players like Ricardo, Pepi, potentially Walker Zimmerman, Matt Turner, they're going to be getting a good amount of playing time because Berhalter wants to keep them sharp for the January camp. And in that respect, I feel like those are some of the players that can make an impact on the score line as well. Matt Turner can keep the ball out. Walker Zimmerman's an excellent defender. He's also great on set pieces and corner kicks. and Ricardo Pepi, we all know, can put the ball away in the opposing net. So I feel like they're all kind of impact players in their own right. I could pretend like 3-1 or 4-1, I don't think is out of the question for this. But if we start to experiment with different formations, if we, play Brian Reynolds for a half and Justin Che for a half and change half the team at halftime, like it, again, at the end of the day, like the result isn't really that important. But if we were playing to win this game, playing to stay sharp and keep our focus for the January camp, I could see like a 3-1, 4-1 victory.
Yeah, I agree. And, we have quality on this roster throughout it. So there are players that can go out there and get this result. I do think that the last 30 minutes of a friendly are pretty much useless. So we'll see what happens in the first 60 minutes, because after that, I don't think we're going to get any useful information or really see people going that hard.
Yeah. Daniel, are there any players that you're excited to see or players that you want to see on the field?
That's actually a pretty good question. Because there was actually a few names that really intrigued me off this roster when it first came out. I guess there was actually just a few guys that I know probably aren't going to get much minutes, but that did intrigue me because I guess it was nice to see them get back into the fold. One of them being Cardoso, just because of our lack of depth at the sixth. I think getting him another look, at least by the coaching staff, was good. And then it also interested me to see Taylor Booth placed as a forward, just because I know throughout most of his developmental years, he's been playing as an 8, as a midfielder. So it was interesting to see him listed as a forward. But then I think there's a few forwards that could play in midfield. Ferreira has played deeper. Caden Clark has obviously played in the midfield for Red Bull, and he's actually done pretty well at pressing in his game, or at least from what I've seen from him. He can press to a relative success at the MLS level, and that was something that I noticed. I guess Booth, and then I guess Caden and Cade, the two Cades, I guess, really look intriguing to me just because of how exciting they seem, I guess, as prospects.
Definitely. Yeah. Caden Clark is like the number one name that I want to see on the field. Taylor Booth like really impressed me in his press conference, just with like his quiet confidence and he was very open about conversations that he had with Nagelsmann at Bayern, why he's kind of training with the first team, playing at right back with the second team. It was really interesting to hear him speak because I feel like he was a bit more forward with the conversations that he was having with coaches than a lot of players are. But it wasn't like in a way that was giving away the relationship or not making it a private matter. So I was really impressed by Taylor Booth. And I'd love to see him play the 8 in this game, get a run out for 30 minutes, get that trash time, like where he just puts on the jersey and plays for the Crest. That would be really nice to see for me. Anything else that's on your mind?
I guess just one last little thing which I found interesting, was that the one last name I'll say that I found was interesting in this camp was Cole Bassett. And that was because in the summer he was thought to get a move to Benfica B, but he rejected it because he wanted to try to go for the MLS Cup with Colorado, if I remember correctly. And I think I actually looked deeper into his development in Colorado. And the one thing I noticed that his coaches and people around him said about him was that he's a hard worker and that he wants to continue to improve. And I think he's kind of a midfielder that has kind of gone under the radar, at least developmentally, in Colorado, for whatever reason. And I think that if he has that mentality and he goes to a team, say in the Bundesliga, or maybe a lower league like Netherlands or Portugal or Belgium, and gets off to a good start there, I think he could really go far with that mentality if what his coaches said are true and he can push himself. So that's just one name that I thought was also interesting. But other than that, not a whole lot else to say. I guess I'll go score prediction to finish up here. I'll say, I'm not going to be overly confident. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to say 2-1.
Right, nice.
I think that's a fair, respectable score.
A lot of 2-1s.
Yeah,
I like that.
Preston's as well.
Yeah.
But Daniel, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for stopping by.
Where are you joining us from, by the way?
I am from a DC suburb named Ashburn, Virginia.
Okay,
it's
awesome.
Out west of DC. It's about 45 minutes west, kind of near, if you guys know where like the Washington football team's practice facility is, kind of, it's kind of near Leesburg out here in Northern Virginia.
Awesome.
So,
Nice.
Well, thanks so much, man. Really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Yeah.
And thanks for all your insight.
Yeah.
Hope you guys have a good evening and take care. I really enjoy your guys' content. Keep it up.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
Peace, man. All right. So guys, we are going to look to wrap it up in a bit. I'll try and get through the rest of the questions. I also just want to say a huge thank you to Preston and Daniel for joining us on being brave souls, getting their questions out and talking through. I feel like I'd be super nervous if I didn't have a YouTube channel when I first started. Tom, I don't know about you, but it feels a lot more comfortable now.
Yeah, it's a lot more. So I've been working in, presentations and public speaking for so long that it's second nature to me. But I remember when I first started out, it was so intimidating.
Yeah. Now look at you. All right, so we're going to go down the list, guys. Make sure if you have any other questions to throw them out.
Well,
and
this
we'll
is
spend
quite a
another
comment.
10 minutes. Brooks Lennon starting because he crosses out. Yes, he started. All right, Tom, I need some of your color commentary on this.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, fantastic comment because he's not wrong. Jossie Zardes is a target forward. He's the closest thing to Joseph Martinez we have on this roster. And Brooks Lennon is used to playing balls into the head of big, tall of strikers who know how to finish with their head, have good leaping ability, a good touch on their finish. So it's not a bad take.
The Liverpool legend lives on with Brooks Lennon. Matt, you said, I think Caden Clark's best position in Greg's system is an inverted winger. Hope to see him rather than as a false nine. Yeah, he played the first the youth tournament as a false nine, which was really disappointing. That's not a position that he ever played for Red Bull. So yeah, I think inverted winger, like left wing, playing more inside and vertical, or potentially as an 8, more attacking 8. I think he could do well in that position. Can't keep track of all these tournaments. There's a lot happening. Peter, also, this news just came out like 5 minutes before the stream started, so I wouldn't worry too much if you're not checking Twitter vigorously every 3 seconds. You're definitely going to miss some stuff. All right, Matt, you said, why do you think more MLS academies aren't producing a lot of high-end talent? Only a couple seem to do it consistently. I know the young franchises need time, but others have been around for quite a while. Tom, what do you think?
It's a good question. I mean, you would expect some of these sort of longer academy systems to be producing more, but DC United really doesn't produce a whole lot. FC Dallas and New York Red Bulls obviously are strong academies, but you don't see a whole lot in the Pacific Northwest developing. It's a really strange thing. Part of it might be just it's harder to identify talent if you have a really large area that's in your pool, but part of it is probably they're just not seeing the value in investing in their academies.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the teams that have had success in selling young players know and understand what it means to then take that money and reinvest in your academy and take some off to the side and cut yourself a check. Whereas a team like, I don't know, maybe Colorado, maybe I feel like Seattle has a new 16-year-old that I'm excited about every day.
Yeah.
But
have any of them ever actually done anything though? Like Leiva's never done anything.
Is like their academy standout, I would say.
Yeah, they've done well pulling players from college to like start on the first team, but they've not really done a whole lot of selling players beyond Yedlin, and they should be doing more.
Yeah, the level of academy though that is acceptable has started to improve in terms of like how many players are getting to the MLS level. But I know, Matt, that your question was specifically about high-end talent, and I think that's still a very valid concern that we're not creating more pool of 6 or more McKennies. South Korea 2002, although it was a shame for the referee. I can't remember what this is in response to.
This is in response to, I think there was I'm way too young to watch this game, but there was a sort of freak handball that cost the US a draw against Germany, a hand of God type moment.
Yeah, but I'm wondering like which comment it was, or if
it was about it was when we were talking about CONCACAF and
okay,
the US making the 2002 quarterfinals.
Totally fair. Do you guys think Stefan will still be our number one in a year or two from now? I think long term, Zach Stefan is our number one.
Yeah. I'm still hoping for Horvath to get a starting job somewhere, but he seems unwilling to go to a good spot to do that. So,
yeah. Anita, you said as someone who doesn't follow football anymore, hearing the Washington football team is still very weird. I completely agree with you. I also don't watch a ton of football. I also want to plug that I have come in second place in fantasy football. I have a bye this weekend in playoffs, and I haven't watched a second of NFL this year. I'm just working by the numbers.
nice.
I'm just going by what Yahoo Fantasy tells me, picking the players that have the most upside, and it's worked well for me. So your dreams can come true too, guys. Thanks, guys. Daniel here. Daniel, you did a great job. You said I was nervous, but thanks for being so welcome. I like this community and I enjoyed the time on the show. Thanks bunches. Daniel, even though you live by the Washington football team, you're a super Ravens fan. So I hope that doesn't change your allegiances. But yeah, thank you so much for coming onto the channel. Thank you for joining us. And we're happy to have you back anytime you want to come on. Anita, if we keep commenting, then the stream will go on forever. Good news for you is that there's only one more comment. And if you guys want to keep commenting, that's fine. But this is going to be the last one. So, Anita, please never come to Poland, even for Christmas. Yeah, we need some inside sleeper agents for Gabriel Slonina to pick the U.S. I do think the third spot for the goalkeeper is one that is where a young player could come in and earn their spot for the World Cup. I think the center back is a position that's still open. And I think if Ricardo Pepi doesn't continue on his rise and his development, the striker is also another position where a young player or a player in form could come in. What do you think about Gabriel Slonina?
I'm excited for his development. I don't see him as a 2022 prospect, though, and see him sort of pushing towards 2026. I do think that we'll use that third goalkeeper spot to bring in a veteran, sort of someone who can be almost a coach in the locker room. I actually would love to see it go to Brad Guzan.
Yeah,
because he's
Guzan
been
and
in the
Sean
World Cup.
Johnson are kind of like where I see Greg taking that third spot.
Guzan's got World Cup experience. To me, he's the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this live call-in show. What an amazing show. You guys put in so many comments and questions. Thank you so much for all the people that joined us, Preston and Daniel, for coming on and asking your questions, talking about the players and the teams that you're excited to see. Tom, thanks for spending some time with me. I really do appreciate it. Just a programming note, I'm headed back to the US to see my family on Sunday, and I have some videos planned out and scheduled. They're not going to be topical, so they're not going to be a review of the Bosnia and Herzegovina game just because I'm going to be on a plane home. So I hope that's all right with you. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas, and I will be back here before the new year, so you will see me before then. And there will be a new Yanks Talking episode out next week. It might be Tom, Ryan, and Manny. It might be an amalgamation of all of us. But thank you for just continuing to support, continuing to listen and watch us. We really do appreciate it. Like the video so more people can find this. Subscribe to the channel for more USMNT content. And we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.